Welcome back to Here at Goldberg. Today we have to recast a video I did previously concerning why men continue to defend and support marriage against all evidence that it's kind of a raw deal. Now, just to be clear, this is not going to be some product from a certain online community which just runs about maniacally celebrating anyone's demise if they feel like it's going to validate their opinions. So when I hear stuff like, "Oh, I can't wait till you get divorce raped," I say, how despicable and repugnant is that for you to rejoice in a person's suffering because you want to feel correct about your own miserable state of affairs? Now, I'll dismiss that right at the forefront. Nevertheless, we have to try to understand why so many men go against all the evidence that's there, the statistics, probably because they want to say, "Oh, I'm an exception to the rule. Like every human being, I'm special. It doesn't apply to me." Well, let's just go and take a gander, shall we? The first time I did the video, I brought up the anecdote of the conversation I had, and there was the one younger dude who had just recently gotten married. He said, "I don't think we're going to be divorced. We've got something special, me and my girl." And then there was the middle-aged guy who was getting really hung out to dry in divorce court. But then I found out later he was kind of a douchebag, both to his wife and people he worked with, his friends. So you never really get that side of the story. It's easy for someone to be a prima donna online. "Oh, I was a perfect little innocent wabbit and they came and killed me." But very seldom do people have introspection and say, "Okay, I also screwed up in these regards." Now, there are cases where the man did nothing wrong. There's also many that are trying to portray themselves as innocent victims and they really were not. So just trust but verify. That's what I encourage you guys when you come across this content online. Now, there's another guy I knew that for the longest time said he was not going to get married. He said it was a complete joke and a disaster, but he recently proposed and he said, "I know most marriages fail, but you just have in the back of your head, maybe I'm part of that one little bitty percent that, we're going to be successful, we're going to live together forever." And hopefully he is correct. Now, he has the advantage of getting married. He's in his 40s or about there. So I think if you're older and maybe a little bit more mature, you have a slightly better chance. But not always. We see some of these celebrities, they just, trade them left and right like Pokemon cards. What are you going to do? One of the primary arguments people will bring up for marriage is that, well, you save money on taxes because the threshold for certain brackets is higher if you file jointly. And this is true, but it depends on, what your spending habits are. If you're two high earners who have a specific goal, you'll probably be fine. But if you're one high earner, another person who's just a spend-a-thon, it could be disastrous. You're going to lose most of your benefits from that whole law. In any case, you could still be together and have kids and just take like the 2.5 kid deduction. All you got to do is pasteurize your tax bill with a couple of reduced fat tax credits. So there is that possibility. I just have to put out there so people don't think, "Oh, you have to be married just for tax reasons." That's kind of a silly argument, the way it works today. Now, a lot of men are confronted with the idea of you have to get married because, "Oh, are you gay?" if you're not married by a certain date. And this is usually from the wine aunts, and you're like, "Oh, are you still alive?" Just saying. But in any case, there is that big pressure. For other guys, it's the fact that many of them are acculturated to believe that marriage is the pinnacle or the apex of their existence. Get a basic job, marry the high school sweetheart, have kids. I'm not hating on that idea. Families are important. But you have to be careful with it because it's easy for the fear of missing out to set in. If you marry a girl who's like a hairstylist, and she's not very traditional, there's a good chance that, she's going to step out. You might even step out, right? So that's one of the big issues. If you look at the stats, and this book is a little bit wordy, it needed an editor, but he talks about marriage, and the people who have the worst divorce rates are actually in the working class, lower middle class. Whereas the upper crust, the meritocratic elite, they don't get divorced much. They have very conservative marriage patterns, even though they tend to be socially liberal. And I think this is the difference. It's actually interesting. These folks tend to be on the left wing, though they are fiscally conservative, they keep their marriages together. They understand it's an economic alliance. If you look at the people who are extremely ideological online, whether bootstrap conservatives, libertarians, or even socialists, they tend to be losers who haven't made it in life. And that's why they kind of compensate by being online and complaining about how everything is wrong. But if you know how to use the system like these meritocrats, you can be very wealthy and protect your wealth and allow your kids to be successful. So this would be people such as maybe Brockway, Codswallop, or Bliss, McCluskey, whatever, and they might get together, or maybe Brockway meets Penny Cheng or Pooja Chatterjee, the people who are like the best schools, best graduate schools. They both have a great career and they work towards a common goal. Weirdly enough, compared to what you hear in the manosphere, sometimes that can be beneficial. A woman who has, she's a researcher, a professor, or has some kind of high-end career, sometimes that can work out beneficially because she's so focused on her work that she doesn't spend all her time doing FOMO and thinking, my husband's not good enough. Now, of course, people in those relationships sometimes do have affairs, but they're at least logical enough to realize, well, we're not going to jeopardize our financial position, at least not right now when we have kids we're trying to put through private school. So they're more pragmatic. Most people marry for love. The smart people marry for money, essentially. That seems a little cynical, but it's kind of true. And that's just the contrast. Again, if you're from some suburbia or small town, it's got a touch of the town where I got cooked, that sort of thing. Not a very good model for a successful marriage, just because what are you building, right? What is your ambition? Now, on the flip side, if you found a girl like this and you live on like a subsistence farm, it could work out better if it's in a more remote area because she can divorce you, but if your land is not highly valued, there's not much she can take from you unless she wants to use the land herself to cultivate stuff. So that can be more effective. But realize, regardless, marriage, you have to have that idea of the financial and economic side. You have to take the gold pill. If you take the gold pill, you're not actually going to get married. But in any case, realize that people are going to change. Most women, when they look at their husband, when they meet him, they're thinking, oh, he's going to remain fit, funny, and fat-free forever. Most men are looking at a woman and saying she's hopefully going to remain, mostly fit, and that's where the conflict comes in. So you have to have that longer-term view. You have to look at it from the side of finances and not get diluted into this mystical idea of love too much. Love does exist, but a marriage built strictly on love, that could just be lust, and it could be misleading. So just do your research and stay safe out there.